Welcome to Zoe Stories. Would you accept this magical feminization offer? It had been a long, monotonous day at the office, the kind that left you staring blankly at spreadsheets and emails while the world outside moved in chaotic, vibrant rhythms. For Alex, this kind of routine was both a comfort and a curse. A 30-year-old graphic designer with a love for detail and an eye for elegance, Alex had always harbored a secret curiosity, one that only emerged in the privacy of his tiny apartment, the thrill of cross-dressing. By day, Alex was just another face in a bustling corporate office in downtown Chicago, quietly navigating deadlines, client calls, and the occasional sarcastic remark from his coworkers. His wardrobe was the epitome of professional monotony, crisp dress shirts, tailored trousers, and polished shoes. But by night, behind the locked door of his apartment, his true self emerged. Delicate skirts, silky blouses, high heels that clicked softly against the wooden floors, and makeup carefully applied to highlight soft features he barely recognized in the mirror. The thrill was in the transformation itself, the soft shift from the rigid masculinity he displayed to the graceful femininity he craved. Ava, his girlfriend of 3 years, was aware of his occasional indulgence in these private transformations but had never truly seen the full extent of Alex's passion. She was supportive in her own way, offering gentle encouragement and playful teasing, yet there remained a boundary neither of them had dared to cross completely. For Alex, this boundary was both a source of comfort and a constant reminder of limitation, a cage around a desire that yearned to be unleashed. It was on a particularly dreary Thursday evening that the extraordinary happened. Alex had just returned from work, tired and restless, when a small, intricately decorated envelope slid under his apartment door. He picked it up, curiosity sparking immediately. The envelope was thick, almost velvety, and sealed with a wax emblem that resembled a tiny crescent moon intertwined with a star. There was no return address. With trembling hands, Alex broke the seal and unfolded the parchment inside. The handwriting was elegant, flowing, and strangely hypnotic. Would you like to experience a transformation beyond your wildest dreams? One night, one choice, a chance to embrace the femininity you've always desired, fully, magically, permanently, if you so wish. Accept, and your wish will be brought to life. Refuse, and your life will continue as before. The choice is yours. Alex blinked, disbelief and intrigue warring within him. It seemed impossible, absurd even. Yet there was a weight to the words, a gravity that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. Could it be a prank? A marketing gimmick? Or something far stranger, something magical? The thought alone sent a shiver down his spine. He paced his small apartment, reading the message again and again, trying to find a logical explanation. Nothing made sense. Yet the allure of the offer was undeniable. The possibility of a complete transformation, a magical feminization, ignited a thrill in his chest that no amount of logical reasoning could quell. Ava's voice, cheerful and unaware of the envelope, floated from the living room. "Hey, Alex, dinner's ready." She entered, her presence grounding him, yet highlighting the contrast between his ordinary life and the extraordinary possibility now before him. Her warm smile, her effortless beauty, and the casual intimacy of their apartment felt comforting, yet Alex could not shake the feeling that something profound was about to change everything. He tucked the envelope into his pocket, trying to act normal as he joined her at the small kitchen table. The aroma of roasted vegetables and herbs filled the room, grounding him in the mundane. Yet every glance at the envelope reminded him that this evening might be the threshold of an entirely new existence. Ava noticed his distracted demeanor. "Everything okay?" she asked, her brow furrowed slightly. Alex forced a smile. "Yeah, just thinking about work," he replied, though the truth was far more complicated. After dinner, Ava left to take a quick shower, leaving Alex alone with his thoughts and the envelope. The apartment, usually a sanctuary, felt charged, electric, as if the walls themselves were waiting for his decision. He sat on the couch, staring at the wax seal, imagining the world beyond it, the possibility of stepping fully into the femininity he had always explored in secret. Alex's hands shook as he weighed the offer. The thrill of transformation was intoxicating, yet fear tugged at the edges of his excitement. What if it was irreversible? What if this magical feminization changed more than just his appearance? Could he face the world as someone entirely new? And yet, the possibility of fulfillment, the chance to fully embrace his hidden desires, was too potent to ignore. He imagined the sensations, the soft brush of a skirt against his legs, the delicate click of heels on polished floors, the subtle curve of lips painted with care, the gentle sway of hair cascading down his shoulders. Every imagined detail sent a rush of warmth and longing through him. The desire he had long buried, the thrill he had only tasted in private, now seemed within reach. By the time Ava returned, fresh from her shower and humming a tune, Alex had made his decision. The envelope sat open on the table, a golden glow faintly emanating from the parchment, as if affirming his choice. He looked at Ava, her presence a reassuring anchor, and whispered to himself, "Yes, I accept." The glow intensified, wrapping around him like a warm embrace, tingling across his skin. Alex felt a dizzying rush, a shift that made his heart pound and his breath catch in his throat. His body tingled, muscles loosening, features softening, and a strange, thrilling sense of lightness filled him. For the first time, he truly felt the femininity he had longed for, fully and irrevocably. Ava gasped softly, noticing the change before him. "Alex," she whispered, eyes wide. He looked at her, a mixture of excitement and awe in his transformed reflection. The person before her was still him in essence, but every line, every curve, every movement radiated the magical femininity he had secretly desired. Alex's mind spun with emotion, fear, exhilaration, wonder, all tangled together. The offer had been real, the transformation complete. And yet, the night was only beginning. The suspense, the emotional journey, the thrill of being caught between worlds had just begun to unfold. The glow from the magical envelope lingered, casting golden reflections across the apartment walls. Alex's hands trembled as he reached up to touch his face, his fingers tracing the subtle softness that hadn't been there moments ago. Every detail of his body felt different, lighter, more fluid, more delicate, and with each passing second, the reality of the transformation sank deeper into his mind. He sank onto the couch, heart pounding, as the initial shock gave way to a heady thrill. The part of him that had secretly longed for this, months, maybe years of private fantasies, suddenly felt validated. The skirts folded neatly on a chair, the high heels lined up like sentinels along the edge of the room, and the makeup kit he had been too nervous to touch for weeks now seemed to call out to him. Alex took a deep breath and approached the small vanity table by the window. The mirror reflected a new version of himself, eyes wider, lips fuller, cheeks slightly flushed with an almost ethereal glow. It was uncanny and exhilarating. Every brushstroke of makeup seemed to affirm his femininity, every swirl of eyeliner or dab of blush a tangible proof that he was stepping further into the person he had longed to be. Ava, still perched on the edge of the bed, watched silently, her expression a mixture of awe and careful concern. "You look incredible," she whispered, hesitant. "This feels different, doesn't it?" Alex nodded, words failing him. The thrill was accompanied by a vulnerability he had never fully experienced before. The magic wasn't just superficial, it seeped into his posture, his gestures, even the timbre of his voice. Each step, each movement, felt both foreign and natural, as though his body was remembering a version of itself he had only ever imagined. The first real test came when Alex approached the skirt he had chosen earlier, a delicate pastel mini with lace accents. The fabric felt foreign in his hands, softer than anything he had worn before, almost alive. Sliding it over his hips, he shivered at the sensation of the material brushing against his newly feminized form. Ava's gaze never left him, silent encouragement radiating through her presence, a steadying force in the whirlwind of change. Next came the heels. Alex had always admired them from afar, never daring to wear them for long periods. Now, The moment felt inevitable. He lifted his foot into the first shoe, feeling the arch support his body differently, forcing him to adjust his balance and stance. The click as he placed the second heel on the floor reverberated through the apartment like a drumbeat of transformation. Every step was a reminder of vulnerability, every sway of his body a declaration of newfound femininity. As the evening deepened, Alex's reflection became almost hypnotic. He traced the contours of his face with trembling fingers, marveling at the subtle changes: softened jawline, fuller lips, delicate eyelashes. The magic had reshaped him, yet the essence of Alex remained intact. It was as if the transformation had amplified hidden desires, bringing them fully into the physical world. Ava's presence was both reassuring and intoxicating. She leaned closer, brushing a lock of hair behind Alex's ear, her touch sparking a shiver of both excitement and nerves. "You've always wanted this," she said softly, almost a confession. "Now it's real." Alex swallowed hard, the reality of her words mingling with a thrill. It was real, and yet, with reality came tension. The fear of being discovered, of someone walking in unexpectedly, of the permanence of this magical change, gnawed at the edges of his exhilaration. Each movement had to be measured, each sound controlled. The apartment, once a safe haven, now felt like a stage set for suspense. Hours passed in a blur of self-exploration and careful practice. Alex learned to walk in heels, adjust the skirt's hem, and carry himself with a grace he had only imagined. The mirror became both a friend and a test, reflecting his new reality while reminding him of the stakes. Ava watched, guiding him subtly, correcting small details, her voice a soft anchor in the storm of sensations and emotions. By midnight, Alex's transformation felt complete, not just externally, but internally. The magic had not only reshaped his body, but had awakened a confidence and fluidity he had never experienced before. Yet, with confidence came suspense. Every creak of the floor, every sound from the hallway, made him flinch. Ava reassured him, but even her presence could not fully erase the awareness that their secret, magical night was a fragile construct, ready to be disrupted at any moment. As Alex finally sank onto the couch, exhausted yet exhilarated, a sudden knock echoed from the door, a sharp, deliberate sound that made his heart skip. The suspense hit instantly. Who could be visiting at this hour? A neighbor? A delivery? Or someone who had somehow learned of the magical transformation? Ava's hand found his, gripping tightly. "Stay calm," she whispered, eyes wide. Alex nodded, the thrill of danger now entwined with the exhilaration of his transformation. The magical feminization had brought him what he desired most, but it had also opened a door to uncertainty, tension, and the unknown. And just like that, the night shifted from one of exploration to a suspenseful test of secrecy, control, and self-discovery. The adventure was far from over, and the stakes had just risen. The knock at the door echoed again, louder this time, bouncing through the apartment like a warning. Alex froze, his heart pounding in a rhythm that seemed almost unnatural. Ava's grip on his hand tightened, and he could feel her own tension through the touch. The thrill of transformation, once purely personal and private, now mingled with fear. Someone could discover him in this completely new form. "Maybe it's just a mistake," Ava whispered, trying to calm both of them, though her voice carried the same tremor of suspense. Alex nodded, though the rational part of his mind felt far away. Every fiber of his being had been rewired by the magic. The soft curves of his body, the pastel skirt, the delicate heels, all screamed vulnerability. And the thought of being caught, of having his secret exposed, sent a sharp jolt of anxiety through him. Taking a slow, deliberate breath, Alex tiptoed toward the door, each step in heels a careful balance between poise and panic. He peeked through the peephole. A shadowy figure lingered outside, their features obscured by the dim hallway light. A flyer? A neighbor? Or someone who knew more than they should? The uncertainty clawed at him, making his body tingle with adrenaline. Ava moved silently beside him. "Don't open it yet," she murmured. Let's see what they want. Alex's fingers hovered over the doorknob, trembling. This was the first true test of his new identity. Could he maintain composure, grace, and femininity under the threat of exposure? He reminded himself of every movement he had practiced, the sway of his hips, the elegance of his hands, the gentle softness of his voice. But the knock came again, insistent and demanding. Reluctantly, Alex opened the door a crack. A small package had been left outside, carefully wrapped and unmarked. The shadowed figure was gone, leaving only the object behind. His pulse raced as he brought it inside, placing it on the table. The envelope from earlier still glowed faintly in the corner, and the sight of the two together made the apartment feel like a nexus of magic and suspense. He tore open the package. Inside lay a delicate charm bracelet, adorned with tiny moon and star charms, echoing the seal from the magical envelope. Attached was a note. Wear this tonight, and your femininity will deepen. Each charm enhances what you have already embraced. Choose wisely. Alex's hands shook as he picked up the bracelet, examining its intricate links. He slipped it over his wrist, and immediately a warmth spread through his body, a tingling sensation that accentuated every curve and line the magic had already shaped. The effect was immediate. His posture shifted, movements became more fluid, and even the tone of his voice softened, richer and more melodic. Ava's eyes widened, reflecting awe and wonder. "You look even more perfect," she breathed. Alex blushed, realizing just how intense the transformation had become. Yet, with every positive change came a whisper of fear. This wasn't just cosmetic, it was permanent. Every enhancement of his femininity was a reminder that the magic was real, irrevocable, and all-encompassing. The suspense deepened as a loud noise came from the apartment hallway, a floorboard creaking, footsteps approaching. Alex's heart skipped. Someone was coming. The quiet intimacy of the night was shattered, replaced by the edge-of-your-seat tension of potential exposure. He and Ava exchanged a glance, communicating silently that every movement now had to be deliberate. Alex moved toward the window, peering out cautiously. No one was in sight, but the sensation of being watched lingered like a phantom. Every shadow in the room seemed alive, every flicker of the apartment light a potential signal that his secret could be discovered at any moment. The exhilaration of his transformation was now intertwined with the thrill of suspense. His magical femininity had become a double-edged sword. Ava, sensing his unease, moved closer and whispered, "You've come so far, Alex. Don't let fear ruin this." Her words were both grounding and electrifying. He knew she was right. The magic, the thrill, the secret desires finally realized. He couldn't let a moment of panic undo everything. Taking a deep breath, Alex allowed himself to explore the apartment in his new form. Every movement was deliberate, sensual, and practiced. The click of heels against the hardwood floor was a symphony of power and vulnerability. The sway of his hips, the tilt of his head, the delicate positioning of his hands, all became a choreography of self-expression he had never dared perform outside the privacy of mirrors and imagination. Yet, suspense continued to mount. A sudden sound, a neighbor's dog barking, or perhaps a creak from the adjacent apartment, made him freeze mid-step. Every hair on his body stood on end. The thrill of transformation, the magic coursing through him, was now inseparable from the anxiety of potential discovery. He realized that living fully as his transformed self required courage not just of body but of mind, a willingness to embrace exposure, risk, and vulnerability. Hours passed in this heightened state, the night deepening into an intimate, tense cocoon. Alex practiced walking, sitting, adjusting his clothing, and even experimenting with subtle gestures of flirtation and confidence. Each motion reinforced his femininity, while each noise outside reminded him of the fragile line he walked between fantasy and reality. By the early morning, Alex felt a strange exhaustion, a mixture of satisfaction, fear, and exhilaration. The bracelet's charms seemed to pull softly, as if affirming his transformation, whispering that the night's journey was just beginning. And just as he relaxed slightly, imagining a quiet conclusion, another sound shattered the apartment's fragile calm. A knock, sharp and deliberate, louder than before. Ava and Alex exchanged a tense glance, both knowing the next moment could change everything. The suspense was no longer about magic alone. It was about secrecy, courage, and the possibility that their shared reality might be disrupted. The knock on the door reverberated through the apartment, sharper than any sound Alex had heard all night. His heart pounded, a frantic drumbeat echoing the tension that had been building since the magical transformation began. Every instinct screamed caution, yet a part of him, the part that had secretly longed for this transformation, tingled with an odd mixture of fear and excitement. Ava's hand found his, squeezing gently as if to anchor him. "I'll handle it," she whispered. With careful precision, she moved to the door, her fingers brushing the doorknob before pausing. Alex could feel the suspense in her movements mirrored in his own body. Each step he took in his heels was a delicate negotiation between balance and poise. As Ava opened the door, a delivery man stood there, holding a small envelope with a curious emblem. "Package for Alex Morrison?" he asked, his voice neutral, unaware of the magical tension coursing through the apartment. Alex's pulse began to calm ever so slightly. The danger wasn't immediate, but the suspense lingered, a reminder that secrecy was fragile. Ava signed for the envelope while Alex's eyes roamed, taking in every reflection, every shadow. He adjusted the hem of his skirt and smoothed the delicate fabric over his hips, a subtle rehearsal of his newly acquired grace. The mundane nature of the delivery clashed with the extraordinary transformation he had undergone, amplifying his awareness of how different his life had become in such a short span of time. Once the delivery man left, Alex carefully opened the envelope. Inside lay a small, ornate key accompanied by a note in elegant, swirling script. "This key unlocks a chamber of self-discovery. What awaits you will challenge both your confidence and courage. Embrace it fully, and your journey will deepen." Alex's fingers trembled as he held the key. The thrill of anticipation surged through him, blending with the lingering suspense of being in a body that was both familiar and strikingly new. The bracelet's charms pulsed faintly against his wrist, as if urging him forward. Ava watched silently, her presence comforting yet tinged with the same excitement and trepidation. The next challenge revealed itself almost immediately. A sudden text alert from an unknown number flashed on Alex's phone. "Are you ready to fully embrace what you've become? Come alone. Midnight. The location is enclosed." The message was concise, almost cryptic, but it carried an unmistakable weight of suspense. Alex's mind raced. Was this another magical test? A trap? Or a part of the enchantment that would shape his transformation even further? The questions burned in his chest, igniting a cocktail of fear and exhilaration. Ava placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together. You've already come this far," she said, her eyes reflecting both concern and pride. Alex nodded, but the thought of leaving the apartment in his fully transformed state sent a shiver down his spine. This would be the first time he would navigate the outside world entirely as the person the magic had shaped him into, a vulnerable, exposed, yet confident new version of himself. As the clock crept closer to midnight, Alex prepared meticulously. He selected a fitted, shimmering dress that accentuated his curves, adjusted his hair, and applied the final touches of makeup. Every detail mattered. Every small adjustment was a rehearsal for the challenge ahead. The magical bracelet seemed to hum in rhythm with his heartbeat, amplifying his awareness of every movement, every glance, every subtle shift in his posture. When the moment arrived, Alex stepped into his heels, feeling the familiar yet exhilarating strain of balance and elegance. He could feel the city outside, distant and alive, yet full of potential witnesses to his fully feminized form. Each step toward the door was deliberate, a careful dance of confidence and caution. Ava followed closely, a silent sentinel in this shared adventure. The suspense of the outside world pressed against Alex's senses. Every streetlight, Every shadow, every passing figure carried the potential for discovery. His heels clicked against the pavement, a rhythm both thrilling and nerve-wracking. The magical feminization had not just transformed his body, it had reshaped his very perception of self, demanding that he navigate both physical and emotional landscapes with a heightened sensitivity. Arriving at the designated location, a small, dimly lit courtyard enclosed by ivy-covered walls, Alex's breath caught. A lone figure awaited him at the center, an elegant silhouette illuminated by a single lantern. The figure's presence exuded authority and mystery, and the aura of magic was unmistakable. "You've come," the figure said, voice melodic and commanding. "Tonight, you will face your greatest test. Not of body, but of courage, identity, and desire. Are you ready to accept what lies ahead?" Alex swallowed hard, his transformed body alive with anticipation and tension. Every sense was heightened, every nerve attuned to the stakes of the moment. The suspense of the magical feminization, combined with the thrill of stepping fully into the world as his new self, was nearly overwhelming. Ava's hand found his once more, grounding him. "You've got this," she whispered. Alex nodded, the pulse of his excitement mingling with fear, creating a perfect storm of emotional intensity. The first true external challenge of his feminization journey had arrived, and he had no choice but to embrace it fully. The courtyard was quiet, almost unnaturally so, the lantern casting long, wavering shadows across the cobblestones. Alex's heels clicked softly, the sound resonating through the empty space. Every instinct screamed caution, yet an undeniable thrill coursed through him. The magical bracelet pulsed faintly on his wrist, as if syncing with his heartbeat and amplifying every emotion. The figure before him, tall and mysterious, extended a hand. "Step forward," they commanded. The voice was calm, yet carried an authority that made it impossible to resist. Alex swallowed, his nerves firing in tandem with the adrenaline surging through his body. He moved carefully, each step measured, hips swaying with practiced grace, shoulders held back, chin slightly lifted. Every movement was an exercise in poise, a dance between vulnerability and confidence. "You have embraced the first stage," the figure said, circling him slowly. "Now, you must face the trials that will determine how fully you can live within this new form." Their eyes glimmered with an unspoken magic, and Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. This was no ordinary test. It was a confrontation with both his body and his inner self. The figure produced a small, intricately carved box. Inside were several items: a delicate pair of gloves, a silk scarf, and a small vial containing a shimmering liquid. Each item represents a choice. How you use them will define your confidence and your ability to navigate the world as your true self, they explained. Alex picked up the gloves first. Sliding them onto his hands, he immediately felt a heightened sensitivity in his fingers, a tactile awareness that made even the simplest gestures feel charged with intention. The silk scarf, draped around his shoulders, seemed to accentuate the curve of his neck and the softness of his features. Finally, the vial shimmered enticingly. He hesitated, knowing that drinking it could intensify the magical transformation even further. The suspense of decision gnawed at him. The choice was irreversible, and he could feel the weight of it pressing on his chest. Ava's voice broke the tension. "You've come this far, Alex. Trust yourself. Trust the magic." Her words anchored him, giving him a moment of clarity amidst the swirling uncertainty. He uncorked the vial and took a small sip, the liquid warm and electrifying as it spread through his body. Every nerve seemed alive. Every muscle, every curve felt more pronounced, more confident, more undeniably feminine. The figure nodded approvingly. "Now, demonstrate your transformation in the world beyond this courtyard." At once, the courtyard seemed to dissolve, replaced by a series of shimmering portals, each leading to a different scenario: a crowded street, a social gathering, a mirror-filled chamber. Alex realized these were tests of presence, confidence, and adaptability, each designed to challenge him in ways physical, emotional, and psychological. He stepped through the first portal and found himself in a bustling street, people walking briskly, unaware of the magic enveloping him. Alex's pulse quickened. The fear of exposure, the thrill of being seen, and the intoxicating feeling of his enhanced femininity collided into a storm of emotion. Each glance he received, curious, admiring, indifferent, sent shivers down his spine. He practiced subtle gestures, a tilt of the head, a glance over the shoulder, the delicate swing of his arms. Each movement reinforced his newfound identity while testing his control. The second portal brought him into a crowded room, filled with elegantly dressed figures. Alex's heart raced. Social interaction was far more challenging than solitude. The magic had made him visually perfect, yet the real test was posture, poise, and conversational confidence. He felt the warmth of the bracelet and the lingering effects of the vial guiding his gestures and inflections. He smiled softly, introduced himself with grace, and navigated the room with an elegance he had never possessed before. But with each success came a shadow of doubt. The magic was intoxicating, yet every glance, every whisper felt like it could expose him. The thrill of living as his feminized self was inseparable from the fear of discovery. He realized that this journey was not just about appearance. It was about courage, self-acceptance, and the willingness to fully inhabit an identity he had secretly desired. Finally, the third portal opened to a room lined with mirrors. Alex faced countless reflections of himself, each image highlighting a different facet of his transformation. Some were familiar, others exaggerated, all demanding recognition. The symbolic weight of this moment hit him. The reflection was not just physical but emotional, a confrontation with who he was, who he had become, and who he wished to be. He practiced movements, adjusted his posture, and studied each reflection. A subtle smile curved his lips as he realized that the magic had not only transformed his body, but had amplified confidence, femininity, and grace in ways he had only ever imagined. Yet, the suspense of what would come next lingered. Every mirror, every portal, every magical enhancement hinted at further challenges, each one testing his resolve and his willingness to embrace this new self. By the time he stepped back into the courtyard, Alex was both exhilarated and exhausted. The magical figure awaited, nodding in approval. "You have faced your trials with courage and grace," they said. "But remember, each choice carries consequences. Your journey is just beginning." Ava embraced him tightly. "You were amazing," she whispered. "I've never seen you like this. Confident, radiant, completely yourself." Alex felt a mixture of pride and lingering tension, the sense that the magical journey had only scratched the surface and that the real challenges lay ahead. The moon hung high, casting silver streaks across the courtyard as Alex and Ava stepped back from the portals. The magical trials had pushed him to new heights, testing both his confidence and his control. Every step, every glance, every motion had been a dance between exhilaration and fear. Yet, the most intense challenge was yet to come, one that would force Alex to confront not just his appearance, but the very essence of his identity. A faint, ethereal hum filled the air, signaling the arrival of the final test. The mysterious figure appeared once more, holding a small, intricately carved mirror. Its surface shimmered with a light that seemed almost alive. "This mirror," the figure began, "will reveal not just who you appear to be, but who you truly are inside. You must face it alone." Alex's heart thudded. He took a deep breath, feeling the heels beneath his feet, the smooth curve of the skirt, the softness of the fabric against his skin. The bracelet on his wrist pulsed as if sensing his hesitation, urging him forward. Ava squeezed his hand once more. "You can do this. I believe in you." He stepped toward the mirror, each movement deliberate, yet trembling with anticipation. As he gazed into its reflective surface, he saw more than his feminized appearance. The mirror seemed to strip away all pretense, all artifice, exposing the raw, vulnerable emotions he had carried secretly for years. Shame, excitement, desire, fear, all intertwined in the figure staring back at him. The reflection began to shift, showing not just his current form but echoes of past selves, memories of moments he had longed to experience as a woman, small private fantasies of elegance, grace, and softness. Each image pulled at him, eliciting both a pang of longing and a thrill of recognition. The mirror was not just a reflection, it was a reckoning. A sudden gust of wind lifted his hair, and the bracelet glowed brighter. The magical energy surged, making every movement, every sensation more vivid. Alex's heart raced. He felt a magnetic pull, as though the mirror was drawing him into a deeper, more permanent transformation. The thrill was intoxicating, yet a whisper of doubt lingered. How far could he go before losing control? Ava's voice, though faint, anchored him. Alex, you decide your own path. This is your choice. He nodded, swallowing hard. The tension coiled tightly within him, a mixture of fear, exhilaration, and anticipation. He touched the mirror's surface. The instant his fingers made contact, a warm, tingling sensation spread through his body, intensifying every curve, every detail, every subtle enhancement of his feminized self. Suddenly, the mirror flashed, revealing an alternate future, Alex fully embracing his transformation, walking confidently in the world as the person he had secretly longed to become. The vision was vivid, almost tangible, and it stirred something deep within him, a realization that desire and self-acceptance were not mutually exclusive. Yet, with the allure of this future came the suspense of the unknown. How would the outside world respond? Could he maintain control? Would Ava, family, or friends accept this change? A soft chime echoed through the courtyard, signaling the final phase of the trial. Alex felt the magical bracelet tighten slightly, almost like a gentle, guiding hand. The figure spoke again, their voice carrying both authority and reassurance. The choice is yours. Step through fully, and your journey will transform forever. Hesitate, and the magic will recede, leaving only a memory of what could have been. Alex took a deep breath. The heels beneath him felt steady, the skirt swayed with perfect rhythm, and the enhanced awareness of his body created an intoxicating sense of presence. He could feel his heart racing, the excitement mingling with fear in a delicate, almost unbearable balance. Every fiber of his being demanded action, urged him toward the unknown, toward a life he had dreamed of yet feared to claim. Ava's hand on his back gave him courage. I'll be here, no matter what. With a final glance at the mysterious figure and a steadying breath, Alex stepped forward, touching the mirror's surface fully. The magical energy surged through him, lifting him slightly off the ground, enveloping him in warmth and brilliance. Colors swirled, the courtyard faded, and the sensation of absolute transformation washed over him. As the light dimmed and reality began to settle, Alex opened his eyes. He felt different, more complete, more confident, more undeniably himself. The world beyond the courtyard seemed larger, more vibrant, and filled with possibilities he had never dared imagine. Yet, the suspense of what awaited, how people would react, what challenges he would face next, lingered, a thrilling tension that kept his senses sharp. The figure's voice echoed one final time. Your journey has only begun. Embrace it fully or retreat to the past. The choice is yours alone. Alex turned to Ava, her eyes shining with pride and love. We'll face it together, she said. He nodded, aware that the true tests, the real-world challenges, the reactions of friends, family, and society, were still ahead. But for the first time, he felt prepared. The thrill, the vulnerability, and the exhilaration of living as his transformed self had become an inseparable part of him. The city had changed in Alex's perception. Colors seemed brighter, lights warmer, and even the hum of traffic felt alive, almost electric. The magical transformation was no longer confined to a courtyard or a mirror. It was part of him, woven into every gesture, every breath. Yet with this newfound confidence came an inescapable tension. The real world didn't pause for magic. Alex stepped out of the cab, feeling the heels press firmly against the pavement. His outfit, a sleek emerald dress that hugged his form and accentuated his curves, shimmered faintly under the streetlights. Every step carried both elegance and a flash of vulnerability. The bustling city around him was unaware of his secret, but every passing glance made his pulse spike. Were they judging him? Admiring him? The uncertainty was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. Ava walked beside him, a reassuring presence, holding his hand loosely. "You look incredible," she whispered, her eyes shining. "Just be yourself." The words should have been comforting, but Alex felt a surge of anxiety. Being himself now carried an entirely new meaning, one that the world might not accept. The event he was attending, a high-profile charity gala, was filled with people who had never seen him like this. Friends, colleagues, and acquaintances mingled, unaware that the person they had known for years had transformed overnight. Every step into the grand hall felt like walking a tightrope between exposure and acceptance. A sudden voice drew his attention. "Alex." A colleague approached, tilting his head slightly in curiosity. Alex froze for a fraction of a second, then smiled, letting the magic-infused confidence take over. "Yes, it's me," he said smoothly, adjusting his posture. The thrill of recognition mingled with fear. How much could he reveal, and how much would they perceive as natural? The conversation flowed, but every compliment, every subtle glance, carried a hidden tension. Alex could feel the magical energy from the bracelet, steadying his nerves yet amplifying his awareness of every gaze. He realized that confidence wasn't just about how he moved, it was about how he claimed his presence, how he allowed himself to be seen without flinching. Then, the first obstacle hit, a sudden interruption by someone he hadn't anticipated. Jordan, a mutual friend known for bluntness and a sharp tongue. "Alex? You look different," Jordan said, squinting slightly, an edge of suspicion in his tone. The room seemed to contract, the spotlight of attention almost literal, as every eye flicked toward them. Alex's heart raced. The magical confidence from before wasn't enough. Now, he had to think quickly, balancing charm, wit, and control over his emotions. He smiled softly, adjusting the hem of his dress and letting a subtle tilt of the head convey poise. "Yes, I've embraced a new style," he replied smoothly, forcing a casual tone while internally bracing for Jordan's reaction. Jordan studied him for a moment, a mix of curiosity and disbelief on his face. Alex's pulse thrummed like a drum in his ears, every second stretching longer than the last. The stakes were no longer just magical, they were social, personal, and incredibly immediate. One slip, one hesitation, could unravel the transformation he had fought so hard to embody. Then another challenge arrived. A photographer called Alex's name for a photo opportunity. He turned, feeling the familiar rush of attention, the spotlight literally framing him as he posed. Every flicker of doubt, every thought of exposure, threatened to destabilize his poise. But the magical bracelet seemed to pulse with encouragement, every shimmer of energy reinforcing his posture, his smile, his elegance. As the shutter clicked, capturing the moment for the gala's social media coverage, Alex felt a heady mix of exhilaration and vulnerability. He was alive in a way he had never experienced, fully seen, fully feminized, fully himself, yet hanging on the edge of uncertainty. Every laugh, every whisper, every glance felt like a test he had to pass. Then came the twist, a familiar face in the crowd, someone who knew him intimately from before the transformation, someone whose judgment could shatter his confidence entirely. The suspense tightened, the air thickened, and Alex realized the true challenge was not the heels, the dress, or even the magical enhancement. It was navigating the world as this new, undeniable version of himself while keeping control of the reactions around him. The night had begun as a test of confidence, but it was rapidly escalating into a high-stakes labyrinth of social, emotional, and magical tension. Alex felt the duality of excitement and dread, the thrill of being finally visible as he had always imagined, and the fear that this delicate balance could collapse at any moment. The gala had settled into a rhythm of laughter, clinking glasses, and soft classical music, but Alex felt every sound as amplified. Each step he took in his heels echoed in his mind like a drumbeat of anticipation. He was no longer just navigating a social event. He was walking a tightrope of exposure, the slightest misstep threatening to unravel everything he had become. Then, an unexpected voice cut through the ambient chatter. "Alex, is that really you?" It was Celeste, a close friend who had always been perceptive, someone whose intuition often saw through facades. Her eyes locked onto his, curiosity mingled with a faint, incredulous disbelief. The room seemed to freeze for a heartbeat, every eye subtly shifting toward them, sensing the tension. Alex's heart raced. His palms grew slightly clammy despite the magical confidence coursing through him. Ava's hand rested lightly on his back, grounding him, but the pressure of the moment was almost unbearable. "Yes," he said, forcing a steady tone, letting the soft sway of his dress and the confidence in his posture convey calm. "It's me. I'm embracing a new chapter." Celeste's gaze lingered, her expression unreadable. Alex felt the pulse of the bracelet against his wrist, a subtle reminder of the magical energy that had brought him this far. He had to navigate this moment delicately. One wrong word or gesture could shatter the fragile balance between revelation and acceptance. Just as relief began to settle, another twist appeared, a notification from the gala's social media team, displayed on a large screen behind him. The live feed was broadcasting the event to hundreds of viewers online. Every movement, every smile, every subtle adjustment of his dress was now being witnessed by strangers, colleagues, and friends alike. The stakes had multiplied exponentially. Alex felt a surge of panic, a mixture of thrill and fear coursing through his veins. He gripped Ava's hand tighter, grounding himself. "Stay calm," he whispered, though even he struggled to believe the words. The heels beneath his feet felt simultaneously empowering and precarious, the soft fabric of his outfit both a comfort and a vulnerability. Then came the moment of physical tension. The bracelet pulsed unexpectedly, as if sensing the stress and amplifying his senses. Alex felt every curve, every sway, every subtle movement exaggerated, almost painfully so. The room seemed to tilt slightly, and for a split second, he feared he might stumble or draw unwanted attention. Celeste finally spoke, her voice low but clear. "Alex, you're amazing, but I need to understand. Why this transformation? Why now?" The question struck him like lightning. He opened his mouth, words forming but unsure how much to reveal. The thrill of secrecy, the vulnerability of honesty, and the fear of judgment all collided in a storm of emotion. Ava squeezed his hand, a silent encouragement. "You don't have to explain everything," she murmured. But Alex knew that the moment demanded action. He took a deep breath, letting the magical energy steady his nerves, and responded, "Because it's who I've wanted to be. Not just how I look, but who I am inside." A hush seemed to fall over the nearby guests. Some faces reflected surprise, others curiosity, and a few, just a few, smiles of genuine acceptance. The suspense tightened, the emotional tension palpable. Alex realized that this was the true test, not the heels, the dress, or the magical aura, but whether he could withstand scrutiny, judgment, and unexpected obstacles while remaining true to himself. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the hall. A decorative candelabra had toppled, startling nearby guests and drawing attention away from Alex momentarily. He felt a wave of relief, but it was short-lived. From the corner of the room, a figure approached, someone who had always been skeptical of his choices, someone whose disapproval could shatter his confidence in an instant. Alex's pulse quickened. Every step toward confrontation heightened the suspense. The magical bracelet glowed faintly, almost as if whispering reassurance, but the real challenge was human, raw, and unpredictable. The balance between exhilaration and fear had never felt so delicate, the stakes never higher. He straightened his posture, lifted his chin, and prepared to face whatever came next. The heels clicked decisively against the floor, each sound echoing a mixture of empowerment and vulnerability. The night was far from over, and the true climax, one that would test his courage, identity, and the limits of both magic and reality, was only beginning. The room seemed to close in around Alex. The gala, once a scene of elegance and excitement, now felt like a stage under constant scrutiny. Every whispered comment, every sideways glance amplified his heartbeat. The magical energy pulsing from the bracelet made him hyper-aware of his every movement, the sway of his hips, the tilt of his head, the subtle adjustment of his dress. Then came the most unexpected challenge yet. From across the room, a former colleague, someone who had always doubted Alex's confidence and choices, approached with an unmistakable smirk. "Alex, you're certainly different tonight," the figure said, voice dripping with skepticism. The words were harmless enough on the surface, but the undertone carried the weight of judgment, the potential to undo the delicate balance Alex had fought to maintain. Alex froze for a moment, feeling the tension coil in his chest. His magical awareness heightened every nuance, the tilt of the smirk, the narrowing of the eyes, the subtle shift in body language. Every instinct screamed caution, every nerve tingled with both fear and anticipation. Ava's hand on his back provided a grounding presence, a reminder that he was not alone. He smiled, letting confidence flow naturally through his posture. "Yes, I've embraced a new look," he said, keeping his tone light yet deliberate. The magic of the bracelet enhanced his aura, projecting calm and elegance even as his heart raced. Yet internally he battled a storm of anxiety. The judgment of someone close, someone whose approval mattered, weighed heavily. As if the universe wanted to test him further, a commotion erupted near the main stage. A microphone stand toppled, and the crowd turned instinctively, drawing attention away from Alex for a fleeting moment. The distraction was brief, but sufficient to remind him that unpredictability lurked everywhere. In a single evening, he was navigating social scrutiny, magical enhancements, and spontaneous chaos. Then, a whisper of doubt crept in. Would he be accepted in this new form? Could he maintain control if confronted more directly? The thrill of being fully visible clashed violently with the fear of exposure, creating a tension so sharp it cut through every magical and social buffer he had. Celeste, still standing nearby, leaned slightly forward. "Alex, I can see you're trying to be brave, but are you really happy like this?" Her question struck him harder than any judgmental smirk. It wasn't about appearance, it was about identity, authenticity, and the courage to claim a life that few understood. Alex felt the bracelet pulse, a gentle reminder of the magical empowerment that had brought him this far. The sensation was grounding yet electrifying, reinforcing both poise and vulnerability. He took a deep breath, letting every ounce of energy, fear, and desire align. "I am," he said, voice steady, yet layered with emotion. This is who I've always wanted to be." The room seemed to hold its breath, a silent acknowledgement of his declaration. Yet suspense remained, approval from some, judgment from others, and the unpredictable reactions of the live-streamed audience combined to create a pressure cooker of tension. Every second felt elongated, every heartbeat amplified. Then, the ultimate twist arrived. The gala's organizer, a person with authority and influence, approached directly. Their eyes scrutinized Alex with a mixture of curiosity and expectation. "Alex, I've heard some interesting rumors," they began, their tone deliberate. The words hung in the air like a suspended blade, a test of composure and the authenticity of his transformation. Alex felt his pulse spike. This was no longer a matter of magic or fashion. It was a confrontation with perception, authority, and societal expectation. The magical bracelet glowed subtly, heightening his awareness, giving him strength to maintain his poise. Every step, every breath, every gesture now carried immense weight. He straightened, lifted his chin, and met the organizer's gaze head-on. "Yes," he said firmly, the certainty of his voice bolstered by every magical and emotional enhancement coursing through him. "I'm embracing who I truly am, and I won't apologize for it." A collective silence followed. Some faces softened with admiration. Others remained skeptical, but the tension in the room became almost tangible. Alex realized that the true climax wasn't just about being seen. It was about claiming identity, standing firm under scrutiny, and navigating the tangled web of magic, fear, and desire that had defined his journey thus far. The night was far from over. Challenges still awaited. Unexpected reactions, magical fluctuations, and the ever-present possibility of exposure. But Alex had faced the first waves of tension, proving not only to the world but to himself that he could embody his transformation fully, with both elegance and courage. The night had thickened into a tense web of expectations and observation. Every footstep Alex took in his heels now felt like an announcement, each sway of his dress a statement of daring defiance. The gala, once a playground for social grace and polite chatter, had transformed into a testing ground, an arena in which every glance, every word, and every heartbeat carried consequences. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the murmur of the crowd. "Alex, we need to talk." It was Jordan, the colleague whose earlier skepticism had already unsettled him. Jordan's eyes were sharp, scrutinizing, piercing through the layers of confidence Alex had painstakingly cultivated. His presence alone radiated an almost physical pressure, forcing Alex to recalibrate every gesture, every tone. The magical bracelet pulsed insistently, almost urging Alex to remain steadfast, reminding him that the courage he had built was more than skin deep. Yet nothing could eliminate the fear of judgment entirely. With a controlled breath, Alex stepped forward, the fabric of his dress catching the dim light in subtle gleams, projecting elegance even as his pulse thudded in rapid succession. Jordan's tone was measured but loaded. "People are talking about the transformation. Some are intrigued, others confused. Are you really ready for this kind of visibility?" The words struck Alex like a physical blow, a challenge that combined professional scrutiny, social expectation, and personal revelation. He realized that this was the apex of the evening, the confrontation that would define whether he could truly claim his identity without compromise. Ava squeezed his hand softly, a tether to grounding reality, and whispered, "You've got this. Trust yourself." Her presence reminded him that this was no longer just about magic or external appearances. It was about who he was internally and whether he could face scrutiny without fear. Alex straightened, feeling the magical energy stabilize his nerves, and met Jordan's gaze directly. "I've never been more ready," he said, voice firm yet calm, laced with the vulnerability that made him human. "This isn't just a change of appearance. It's a reflection of who I've always been inside. And I won't let fear or judgment dictate my life." The tension in the room surged as other guests began to pay closer attention. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some faces softened with understanding. Others remained skeptical. The magical bracelet shimmered, reinforcing Alex's posture and poise while subtly amplifying the elegance of every movement. The combination of magic and determination radiated from him like an aura, captivating observers and heightening the stakes. Just as he felt a surge of confidence, the final obstacle appeared, an unexpected magical surge from the bracelet itself. A faint glow spread along his arms, and his reflection in the nearby mirror flickered in ways that were almost surreal. The transformation, which had felt complete moments ago, now pulsed with an unpredictable intensity. Panic threatened to rise, a flash of vulnerability Alex hadn't felt before. What if the magic faltered? What if the changes became unstable in front of the crowd? He could feel every heightened sensation, the shimmer of the dress, the pulse of the heels, the soft caress of the wig against his shoulders, all magnified by the sudden surge. Ava's hand tightened over his, grounding him. "Breathe," she murmured, anchoring him in the reality of the moment. Alex inhaled deeply, centering himself, drawing strength from the magic, the love, and the courage that had carried him this far. The final confrontation approached. Jordan leaned closer, the intensity of his scrutiny almost tangible. "If you can face this, fully, unapologetically, you'll have shown everyone who you truly are." His words were a test, a challenge, A knife edge that could either cut down Alex's confidence or elevate it to unshakable heights. Alex took a step forward, heels clicking decisively, eyes meeting Jordan's without flinching. "I am who I am," he said, the words carrying both defiance and pride. "And I will embrace it, no matter what anyone thinks." The room seemed to exhale collectively, a moment suspended between judgment and awe. Every magical shimmer, every heartbeat, every glance reinforced the stakes. Alex had navigated the social, magical, and emotional labyrinth of the gala, claiming not only visibility, but the right to exist authentically in a world that was uncertain of him. But the night was not yet over. While this victory felt monumental, the final seconds of suspense lingered. The magical bracelet pulsed once more, almost as if whispering that the ultimate test of acceptance, self-confidence, and control was still to come. Every guest, every reaction, and every unforeseen event could still alter the course of the evening. Alex understood that the journey of transformation wasn't just physical or magical. It was ongoing, relentless, and deeply personal. The night had reached its crescendo. The gala hall, once filled with chatter and laughter, now felt like a charged arena, every gaze on Alex a silent measure of acceptance or judgment. His heels clicked softly but confidently across the polished floor, each step a declaration of identity, of courage, and of magic intertwined. Then, the unexpected happened. From the corner of the room, the mysterious magician who had offered the magical feminization earlier appeared. Cloaked in shimmering fabrics and exuding an aura of quiet power, they approached Alex slowly, their eyes piercing yet unreadable. "Alex," the magician said, voice both melodic and commanding, "you've embraced the transformation admirably, but there is one final choice you must make." Alex froze, feeling the bracelet pulse intensely against his wrist. The magical energy surged, almost as if aware of the decision looming before him. The crowd around them seemed to blur, as though the world had narrowed down to this single, pivotal moment. Ava's hand on his shoulder grounded him, yet even her presence could not fully temper the storm of anticipation inside him. The magician raised a delicate wand, its tip glowing softly. "You may return to your old life," they continued, "but the magic will fade entirely. Or you can fully commit. Accept this transformation permanently, with every essence of who you are reinforced by the magic. Your life, your body, your perception, all will shift forever." The room seemed to hold its breath. Alex's heart raced, a kaleidoscope of fear, excitement, and longing colliding. Every part of him, the curiosity he had nurtured, the passion for self-expression, the thrill of magical empowerment, screamed to embrace this permanent change. But the shadow of doubt lingered. What would friends, family, and society think? Could he risk this irrevocable step?